contract update. Now, I wanted to kind of switch gears here a little bit. And we've been breaking down all the camp updates, the camp news, this and that. And it's been literally just a flurry of information constantly throughout the past 7 days. Now that we got a day off, the players got a day off, and Tim got a day off from the sidelines over there at practice. I wanted to kind of take a step back and ask you guys, right? What are you excited about from camp? What have you learned from camp? What's sticking out to you? What do you want to see more of? You can take it in any direction. Jacob, I'll start with you, man. What's the thing that kind of grabs your attention, or maybe what you're most interested in when it comes to this Packers team in training camp so far?
Yeah. Mine was going to be the progression of the young defensive end room and just that room in general. And can you give me, this is so unprofessional. I forgot my notes on literally the next room. Can I just grab them for 2 seconds? Because I really want to highlight what Jeff Hafley said specifically, because I think it really makes the point a little more evident. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Go grab him and tell her we said hi. All right, Tim, let's look at the PFF grades here since he stepped away for just a second. This edge room coming out of last year, right? Rashawn Gary was the 28th highest graded pass rusher. Now, we know some of the other statistics seem to think that he's, I know he not graded out, but he was the number one edge defender with the highest run stop rate in the entire league, right? He graded out with a 73.0, run defense grade of 72.8, and a pass rush grade of 66.7. Brenton Cox Jr., 67.2. Aaron Mosby, 62.5. Kingsley Barty, 56.8. And Lucas Van Ness with a 52.9. However, when you look at the quarterback pressure rate, Lucas Van Ness cracked the 15% mark in the second half of the season, really started to amp it up, was playing with a broken thumb, and he finished with a higher quarterback pressure rate according to NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats, GPS tracking, higher than both TJ Watt and our boy Max Crosby. So obviously you can find statistics to fit any narrative you want, but when you look at Lucas Van Ness and what you're hearing out of camp, you're hearing multiple media sources going, this dude's having a hell of a camp. Jordan Morgan had his hands full the other day. Tim, is there anything you want to add here before Jacob dives into his notes?
Real quick, just those names on the bottom of the list, all names that we should be excited about. Colin Oliver, a guy that I cannot wait to see playing some real football once that hammy gets back to where it needs to be. Obviously, Baron Sorrell is going to develop really nicely. I think a lot of us are excited about him. And Deslin, is it Alexander or Alexandre? How do you
Alexander.
Deslin Alexander jumped off the field to myself, and also my wife was with me at camp, and she even noticed. She said, "Who's this number 49? Because he's balling out there every single rep." And I think he's a guy that we should keep an eye on as well. I mean, I don't know how many of these edge guys we're going to ultimately be able to keep on the 53, and then who's going to be practice squad material. But I'll let Jacob go ahead and take it over. But there's a lot to be excited about in this edge room.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. What I basically wanted to highlight is Van Ness's progress. And like Daryl's saying, he's got a ton of confidence in Van Ness. We've talked about how coach speak is a sort of thing. I saw Hafley get up on the podium today, and I really enjoyed the interview he had. It was, I think, 10 to 15 minutes long. I think Clayton may cover some parts of it later in this episode, but everything he said just made me absolutely fall in love with what they're trying to do, not even just with the edge room, the DN room, but with the whole defense in general. And when they was asked specifically about LVN, he said, what has he done to show you why he's making such a progression? It seems like he's flashing almost in every single practice for the last 6, 7 in a row. And the guy just said, the way he handled himself in the offseason, and he came in as a young guy, a little bit raw. Everybody was, the quote unquote is he wasn't a starter. Obviously, that's how Iowa did their rotation. They respected their seniors, the elders there, that was kind of what they did. When he did come into the league, I think he was maybe, I don't want to say he was a one-trick pony, but he definitely didn't have a bag, right? He basically was a bull rush type guy that maybe had a couple moves other than that, but didn't really have anything perfected. Hafley also went on to say that, hey, man, I noticed in OTAs this year, he just seemed like it was clicking for him. It was a little different. I think Hafley would credit that with the fact that they're going into this year 2 of this system. And when we think about that as Packer fans, and as, I hate the term casual fans, but a casual fan would say, well, they're going into year 2. That means it's the second year that they get the same defense, which means they have the same plays, the same schemes. Hafley made it very clear that that's not how it happened, and it wasn't how it's going to happen. He went so far as to say, year one, I was totally figuring out who we were and who we were going to be. He said we were thinking we were going to be a 4 down front, play with a lot of over, a 9 tech, maybe a wide 9 with some middle close coverage type stuff. He says then we evolved as we built the team structure going forward with each week to week. We had to adjust to the NFL. I couldn't tell you guys how refreshing that was to hear because, and I hate, I don't want to throw Joe Barry under the bus, but it seemed like the longest time we went into the season with this is the type of defense we're going to play, regardless of what the players that we have are. And Jeff Hafley, I know you guys know this, that from the beginning of his first press conference, he says, I'm the kind of guy that's going to look at my team, evaluate it, see what they do well and see what they don't do well, and not put them in positions to fail. I'm going to put them in positions of success. I think what's great is he highlights how even Isaiah Simmons, he's not going to force him to do 3 positions, even though he can. He wants him to be a linebacker and only go through linebacker drills. That's it, and perfect that thing. And he went on to talk about, they asked about Brenton Cox. He only had a very short answer, but he said the way that Brenton Cox, I think the question was, when did you know that you had something kind of in Brenton Cox? And he basically said, in practice, we started looking at each other like, we got to get this guy some playing time because he was popping off the field and the tape that much where they're like, we have to get him into the rotation. Like Tim talked about, we have a sneaky backup rotation, I would argue too. I think Aaron Mosby gets slept on a lot because I've seen a lot of good things from him. And obviously with the new guys, Colin and Barron, we don't quite know what we have, but when you listen to the way that Matt LaFleur and Half talk about how Barron Sorrell has prepped and done pretty much everything and anything perfectly up until this point to maximize his potential, his ceiling, that to me got me pretty jacked up. And then he did talk about, and I don't want to, maybe step all over another segment, Clayton, but just another thing that he talked about is that Jeff Hafley has basically added so much new stuff from year 1 to year 2 that if you looked at just the playbook, you'd think that there was a new defensive coordinator is what he said. I thought that was unbelievably amazing. And it's just really cool to see that. And he also said that this quote unquote new system that's coming into this year, he said it's almost 100% implemented already. And somebody in the chat, I said, there's Clint. He goes, he likes the Ball King. Have we not talked about the Ball King on this podcast yet, guys?
The Ball King?
The Ball King.
No, I've never heard of it.
It is nobody from the Oval Office, I promise you. Tim, you'll help me out here. Who is our coach? Coach Wendell is what he used to go by.
Yeah. So
he is now considered the Ball King. The reason for that is that at the beginning of most practices or meetings, Coach Wendell, who is now being called BK or Ball King, per head coach Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley's orders, says that he goes through how last year they were an absolute shark with taking interceptions away from teams, but they was very disappointed in the way that they didn't cause enough fumbles. So Mr. Coach Wendell, aka the Ball King, has now implemented a system to where they even have a siren that he'll sound out when somebody is able to punch basically Peanut Tillman. They're teaching boxing to these guys, basically absolutely having them punch the ball out so ferociously that also Evan Williams went on to say that they have a goal of getting over, I think it was like 43 takeaways and however many had to be fumbles. And Hafley's like, dude, you guys are giving away all our secrets. You got to tell these guys to stop talking so much. But they are really to the point of implementing it every single day. They're showing highlights of old players in the league that used to have that perfect form. Charles Woodson's, the Peanut Tillmans. You go back to a number of different old players that were really, really good at that. They're practicing it so much that I would not be surprised if that's and they're making it. He said they're making it into almost a competition, a game. It sounds like that each coach has drafted certain players, quote unquote, on almost a fantasy type team where they're competing. They're jogging. They're jotting down pluses and minuses for each practice. I mean, and they're getting the guys involved. The way that Coach Hafley described it was that it's very fun, but it's very competitive. These guys have bought in. And I just look at the defensive line, specifically the defensive edge room. If that really takes with the likes of obviously Brenton Cox, with Gary, with guys like LVN, and then if you get younger guys like the Barron Sorrells, the Colin Olivers, and they come in and they really have bought in full-fledged into that attack mode, that it seems like that the defense is, I don't want to say years or, leaps and bounds in front of the office right now, but if they are, I really do think it all comes back to this like fundamental base that Jeff Hafley built last year and now tweaking to be very, very specific in what that defense wants to do. And I think it may be the most excited I've ever been for a Packers defense.
Now, did he say, when he's talking about the ball king and that whole idea, did he say if Nathaniel Hackett had anything to do with it?
He did not.
Okay, because this sounds a lot like the Gold Zone, Tim, when Nathaniel Hackett was here. Remember, made it kind of this big fun kind of thing, you know, as they would always say. Do you remember when they would score and you'd see Aaron lean back and throw his arms up and they'd all scream?
I love gold.
That's what they would say.
I remember that.
So, yeah.
You know, it explains perfectly why I saw so many dudes getting the extra tape on the wrists at practice the last few days. I've seen guys grabbing the old the wrist guards and stuff. You know, you're punching at that football like that. All it takes is that one time you hit an elbow or a forearm instead of the ball, and you got a potential injury. So the guys are loading up and they're loving it.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, when you look at the defense here, the defensive stats from NFL Pro, in terms of quarterback pressure percentage, okay, Brenton Cox Jr. led the way at 13.7%. Rashawn Gary, 13.4%. Lucas Van Ness finished with 11.2. As you guys know, anything over 10 is considered good in the NFL, right? Now, you look at the first half of the season, not that good. Second half of the season, he really cranked it up. Some would say he got around the 14 to 15% mark. So really excited to see what he does moving forward. Kingsley Enagbare is the one that I feel like kind of, Now, keep in mind, they did ask him to do a lot of 55 drop when they were running fire zone blitzes or fire zone looks, the simulated pressure looks. He came in at 9.4%. Aaron Mosby, 8.5%. Preston Smith, who got traded midseason, 7.1%. So they just said, all right, you know what? Let's just go ahead and move on from that. So, I'm excited to see what the edge room can do, man, because, again, last year, it's all over the tape. You can tell that Jeff Hafley really harnessed them. And we're going to get into a little bit more of what Jacob mentioned with that quote. We've actually got the video, the audio to play for y'all when we get to the Jeff Hafley segment. Really excited to look at what this defense did last year and show how they're poised to take a step forward. You guys know I've talked about, hey, they may take a step back, but it's up to Jeff Hafley on whether or not he wants to change up what he did last year or stick to what worked and then adjust on the fly. He's already 2 steps ahead. You're going to love what he had to say, so make sure you stick around for that. Joseph in the chat said, I'm irrationally excited for Sorrell. I think he's going to be a major year-one surprise contributor. Joseph, Tim, you've seen it firsthand, man.
Yeah.
He looks like a damn monster at practice, man. He really does. That's how he's handling the sleds is just like, that's not normal. It isn't.
I think when it comes to the irrationally excited fan portion of the fan base, or all of us as fans, we have those players. I think a lot of people are irrationally excited for Matthew Golden, although every day he proves that it's totally rational to be that excited.
Yeah.
My pick on the defensive side for sure, especially up front there, is I would say Baron Sorrell, but the other name that comes to mind is Nas Stackhouse for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Stack he's a monster too, and if we hit on both of these guys, teams are going to be in trouble, guys.
Not to mention Brinson. You know what I mean? We haven't heard much, but honestly, I'm more impressed, like you said, with the amount of flash plays, even as a big D tackle. Yep. Sounds like he's broken free in the pass rush a few times in Nazir Stackhouse. I think Ryan said it this morning. He's like, can you imagine how terrifying that must be, seeing an open Nazir Stackhouse just running at you, freaking full-fledged?
No,